Hello and welcome to our broadcast where we will explore the unique and inspiring ways Gen Z is standing in solidarity with Palestine. According to King, media has been a crucial tool for the Palestinian people in their fight for national liberation and self-determination. However, the media landscape in Palestine has faced significant challenges due to the Israeli occupation and the ongoing displacement of Palestinians. This is why we believe it is crucial for everyone capable of raising awareness without restrictions to consistently speak about Palestine. Our generation, Gen Z, is at the forefront, using creativity, digital platforms, and grassroots initiatives to make a difference. Today, we will divide our video into two segments: content creation on social media and grassroots initiatives. Each highlights how these efforts amplify Palestinian voices and support their cause.
In our first section, we'll focus on the creative and unique ways Gen Z uses social media to raise awareness and show solidarity with Palestine. From creating cultural art to sharing important information, these digital efforts are helping to keep the conversation alive worldwide. Leah Rashwani and myself, Joudi, will be further elaborating. So let's start with cultural solidarity through art with Leah.
Thank you, Judy. Cultural solidarity has become a known form of resistance for Gen Z, with art, design, and music being the most common ways to honor Palestinian culture and identity while raising awareness about their struggles. Samah Idris, a founding member of the campaign to boycott supporters of Israel in Lebanon, emphasized that both forms of resistance, civil and armed, are complementary and should not be viewed as mutually exclusive. This shows us the importance of cultural resistance in the broader struggle for freedom. One inspiring example is how Palestinian culture shines through in fashion. On Instagram accounts like Palestinian Thobe, which is based in the Netherlands and sells the Palestinian Thobe and ships it worldwide, we can see the beauty of the Palestinian Thobe showcased by the models wearing it. And the account's biography, "Let's keep the Palestinian culture alive." Moving on, music is another powerful form of resistance. Palestinian artists like Elena have made a global impact. Performing on stages like Coachella, Elena wears outfits inspired by her Palestinian heritage and delivers heart-touching lyrics to the audience. Just like her, Saint Laurent, a Palestinian artist born in Jerusalem and raised in Gaza, captivates audiences worldwide with his music that reflects his cultural heritage and the Palestinian struggle. His work shows us the resilience of the Arab and Palestinian community. Now, beyond established artists, we have young creatives who use their digital art and design as tools for advocacy. I had the privilege of speaking with Aya, a talented digital artist and graphic designer from LAU, whose work raises awareness about Palestine. So let's hear her story together. Hello, Aya. My first question for you is, what inspires you to use your art to spread awareness and show solidarity with Palestine, especially as a small artist with a starting platform?
What inspires me to use my art to show solidarity with Palestine, other than the fact that it's a human cause and that I'm Lebanese from South Lebanon, so I can relate to Palestine, is the fact that I wanted to do more than just reposts on my story. I wanted to be part of the people making the art and getting their art reposted. And the fact that my following is low doesn't bother me in the least, as long as there's one person that can relate to what I post and feel seen by what I create, then this is enough for me.
I totally agree. Having your own contribution feels different. So, how do you think social media affects your activism? Do you feel that your art resonates with the audience in a way that could drive meaningful change?
Well, actually, I think that my art alone is not enough to drive meaningful change. But when combined with all the other artists using their platform for Palestine, then a meaningful change is possible. And I think that social media has allowed this movement to grow despite the censorship they continue to enforce. And art, particularly, I think, can bypass the censorship more easily.
So based on that, in your opinion, why do you think visual and creative storytelling, like what you do, is important for raising awareness about the Palestinian cause?
Well, I think that visual storytelling humanizes the struggle and makes it relatable.
It transcends language barriers and allows people to see, feel, and understand experiences that otherwise might feel distant. And especially for the Palestinian cause, Palestinians have been dehumanized so much. So representing their stories and amplifying their voices is crucial.
Yes. So my next question for you is, how do you see Gen Z's approach to activism? Do you feel that it's different from the previous generations in their solidarity with Palestine? Or do you feel that the impact is greater this time around?
This time around, the impact is definitely greater because Gen Z's activism is more immediate, decentralized, and very creative. We use things like memes, reels, and art, different sorts of art to convey complex issues in very accessible ways, very fast, accessible ways. My only hope is that this will translate into a long-term activism that will drive actual change.
So, through art, music, fashion, digital creativity, and many more, Gen Z is proving that cultural solidarity is a powerful form of resistance. These expressions not only amplify the Palestinians' voices, but also ensure that their identity and heritage remain alive and celebrated. Thank you for listening to me. Let's see what Joudi has to show us.
I, Joudi, will be focusing on raising awareness and how Gen Z are using their personal social media platform to educate and inform others about the Palestinian cause. So, in an era where information spreads rapidly online, many young individuals are stepping up to ensure that Palestine remains in a global conversation. They are using their platforms not only to share accurate information, but also challenge misinformation, amplify Palestinian voices, and encourage others to take action and stand in solidarity with Palestine. One of the individuals I'll be speaking with is Lina Al-Hadi, a 20-year-old senior studying political science and international affairs at the Lebanese American University. She has transformed her personal social media account into a digital resource hub. Despite her relatively small number of followers, she constantly posts updates about the situation on the ground, shares educational content, and provides practical tips on how to identify and challenge fake news or misinformation about Palestine. Hello, Lean, and welcome to our broadcast. So I would like to ask you what inspires you to use your own social media platform to spread awareness about Palestine?
What mainly motivates me is the consistent presence of fake news and people not knowing where to stand. And this is why, for me personally, I think this case is a universal case. It's not one that is extremely political or where people should have diverse opinions on the topic. For me, the whole universe should stand in solidarity with Palestine and spread awareness about it. And hence, every member of this universe should be aware. And if I can contribute through my little part of this universe, then I'm glad to do so.
That's very interesting. So could you tell us more on how you use your social media platform to speak up for Palestine? And do you really think that by doing so, you're actually making a difference?
I spread awareness by reposting a lot of documents and a lot of posts that share important information and that debunk fake news. And for me, if through my own research I find an interesting topic that has not been posted about yet, then I try through Instagram's very simple tools to create templates and stories for people to read and to share. And so far, the impact of this content has been very successful because the people that I know were not aware of this type of information are now aware and are reposting.
But Lynn, in her opinion, why do you think that it's very important for the media, whether it was social or traditional, to keep on shedding light on the Palestinian cause?
Media exposure in the Palestinian cause is essential because this genocide has been happening since the UN partition plan was announced. And so the only difference this time is the media exposure. This is why a lot of people are standing with Palestine. This is why this cause has become as universal as it should be, because the only difference is that now it's live broadcasted all over the place, and which is why people can use these platforms to show people the truth, to show people that there is no choice but to stand with Palestine.
Okay, Lean, so what do you think makes us, Gen Z, stand out when it comes to showing solidarity to Palestine?
Gen Z is quite different from other generations. They tend to receive information differently, which is why Gen Z activists know that, and they tend to present the information using a certain format, using a certain language, and they try their hardest to be aware of the type of information that they are putting forward, especially in terms of avoiding misinformation. They usually also use media symbols that can be widespread and that can garner a lot of solidarity in a short amount of time, like using the watermelon as a symbol for solidarity with Palestine and wearing the kufi.
Lean is one of us. She's not a big influencer with millions of followers. She's just a regular Gen Z student using her voice and her platform to make a difference. What makes Lean's work particularly powerful is how it counters what Edward Said described as the erasure of Palestinian narratives in Western media. Said critiqued how media has historically silenced Palestinian voices and perpetuated Zionist myths. Lean's post directly resists this by reclaiming the narrative, ensuring Palestinian voices are heard and their stories are shared widely. Now let's move to Section B, Grassroots Initiatives. This section focuses on how Gen Z is taking action beyond social media to create real-world impact and show solidarity with Palestine. First, we'll hear from Georgette Isa, who will be talking about grassroots efforts that have become a significant force for change, especially with Gen Z's vocal support. But first, explain to us, Georgette, what grassroots means.
Thank you, Joudi, for introducing me and my section. Well, to put it short, grassroots or ground-up initiatives are political projects taken up by a community of people to make a change. These efforts can take many forms, for example, protests, donation campaigns, boycotting movements. That's what I will be talking to you about. The BDS movement, which stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, is a great example of grassroots initiatives. It officially started in 2005 by Palestinian grassroots groups and has gained the most popularity since October 7th, with young Gen Zers being the most vocal supporters. This collective boycotting effort has made a significant impact on the revenue of complicit business franchises. Another popular effort is donation campaigns. Both private social media users and public content creators have contributed to promoting and even launching donation initiatives for the people of Palestine. One great example of this is Operation Olive Branch, a volunteer-based grassroots initiative to accommodate and support Palestinians. Particularly since October 7th, we have witnessed protests from around the world, united in solidarity with Palestinians. Gen Z in particular has taken the world by storm for their campus protests and academic boycotting. To hear more about that, I have conducted an interview with Maya Nasser, a Lebanese graduate currently living in France and participating in protests. So, Maya, because I know you've been to a lot of protests in France, I wanted to ask you, what exactly motivates you to protest in solidarity with Palestinians?
So, putting aside my identity as Lebanese and Palestinian, I think that, as cliche as it sounds, if you're a human, you should be standing with Palestine, because it's inhumane to sit back and watch the Zionist entity fulfill its agenda, ethnically cleansing Palestinians in order to create their Greater Israel project.
And how do you share your protests or initiatives online?
I use primarily and only Instagram as my platform to post about the situation online. And when it comes to protests, I post before the protests for my followers who live here in Paris so that they could be aware of them happening and hopefully participate in them. And I also post afterwards to showcase the impact of the protests and motivate those who didn't participate in this one to participate in upcoming ones, because we always have protests for Palestine here happening in Paris.
Okay, when it comes to solidarity with Palestinians, what do you think is valuable about social media exposure?
I think social media is very important in a situation like this because, as we've seen for the past year and obviously years before, media outlets cannot be trusted with this type of situation. You really need to get your information from people who are experiencing it firsthand, from Palestinians themselves who are sharing it on social media. But I also want to shed light on the importance of international people sharing this stuff on social media and not Palestinians or Lebanese people, because, for example, my follower base is primarily made of Lebanese people and a small percentage of people who are not Lebanese. Lebanese people don't need me to post about the situation for them to learn about it. I post strictly for my international friends who I made here in Paris, or if I've met people online before. I post for them to learn about the situation. But they, for example, make a much bigger impact if they post on their own accounts, because their followers are primarily made of people from their country, from different countries, not necessarily Lebanese people or Palestinians. They are the ones who would be making a much bigger impact than me if they would post about what's happening.
In your opinion, as someone who is relatively young, what do you think sets Gen Z apart in their solidarity with Palestinians?
Now, the obvious answer would be that Gen Z believes in the power of social media more than older generations, especially since we have seen what type of impact social media does in previous years for previous humanitarian or political issues. But I think Gen Z also has a defect, because lots of people have lots of privilege, and some people choose to ignore this privilege by not posting about the situation or any situation really, because they don't want to ruin their Instagram aesthetic, or simply because they don't post about these things. Like, they would say, oh, I don't post about my own country's problems, why would I post about yours? So that's a disadvantage that I think Gen Z has, because I feel like older generations don't care that much about the look of their accounts as much as Gen Z does.
It's valuable to recognize the strength of Gen Z, but also point out our shortcomings. That's even more reason to keep being vocal about solidarity with the people of Palestine.
Lastly, Elena will take us into the world of grassroots media production. She'll discuss how Gen Z is using media production to amplify Palestinian voices and tell stories that mainstream media often overlooks. Elena, would you like to share more about your findings?
Certainly, Joudi. Well, as mentioned by King and Yakik 2024, mainstream media has continuously shaped global perceptions of Palestine, often ignoring or misrepresenting the realities on the ground, and instead choosing to focus on Israeli sources and the Israeli narrative. But recently, with the ongoing genocide in Gaza, we're seeing independent media organizations begin challenging this narrative. Platforms like @Eye on Palestine and many other pages have emerged as key news sources for real-time updates showing the harsh realities of the devastating genocide in Gaza. Their posts expose the violence, displacement, and systemic oppression Palestinians face every day, stories that are often left out of traditional news outlets. Despite their impact, though, these platforms often face severe censorship and shadow banning, as seen when Meta temporarily banned @Eye on Palestine. One media production that I would like to focus on is On the Ground, ME, a grassroots media initiative based in the West Bank. It was started by Adala, a young Palestinian who returned from the UK to document what life under occupation looks like, alongside other Gen Z activists in her team. So my first question to you is, what really motivated this move to Palestine and your work on your Instagram page On the Ground, ME, in documenting the lives of Palestinians?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So what motivated me to move to the West Bank and start my media platform was knowing how underreported stories in the West Bank truly are. Even as a Palestinian, coming from the UK, going into the West Bank, I had realised through conducting interviews and conducting my reports how little I actually knew about my own country, about my own people. It was truly surprising. It was so surprising how much worse it actually is in reality.
So what sort of challenges do you face or you think you might face in the future when it comes to documenting on the ground?
The main challenge that journalists like myself and all journalists across Palestine face, and probably the only challenge that we face, is the occupation. The occupation actively seeks to silence anyone who tries to show the truth. This could be anything from imprisoning you to murdering you. I found out the hard way when I went to conduct a documentary in the Jordan Valley and I was brutally beaten by settlers who broke my arm. This is something that Palestinian journalists go through nearly every single day. Violence is a regular occurrence for us. Death is a regular occurrence for us also. You see in Gaza where the number of journalists who have been killed is the highest number of journalists in any war in history.
Living in the West Bank, you've probably witnessed the complexities of life under occupation. How has this sort of shaped your experience and your perceptions, and how do you think that will translate into the message you're trying to share with your audience, particularly those who might not really know about the Palestinian struggle?
Yeah, exactly. Life under occupation for Palestinians is literally the worst thing to go through. It is living in a prison without living in a prison. It dictates everything you do in your life. And I had realised that when I first moved here. Now, my message to people who don't really understand the Palestinian struggle, it's been over a year of massacres and violence against Palestinians. I don't really feel the need anymore to educate people who just aren't aware, because the information is there, the videos are there. I continue reporting and conducting interviews to show the world. But at the same time, if you aren't aware of the Palestinian cause, after everything that has happened, all I can say to you is just research. That's all it is.
Final question to you, Adala, is what do you think sets Gen Z apart in their solidarity with the Palestinians?
What sets Gen Z apart from the rest is their ability to unlock knowledge and understanding through social media. Things that larger news organisations just won't show you. Gen Z, our generation, are able to look past the constraints of larger billionaire-backed media organisations who have an agenda to push. We're able to look past that, and we're able to see the personal stories of Palestinians. We're able to see stories that just won't be reported on. And that's why I started my organisation in the first place, is to show the little stories. All of social media is available to us, and therefore we are able to understand and we are able to be more compassionate. That's what sets us apart.
These grassroots media productions are critical in countering the narrative pushed by Western media. Mainstream media often frames the genocide as a two-sided clash, ignoring the systemic oppression Palestinians face daily. By sharing unfiltered stories and on-the-ground footage, these grassroots media outlets humanize Palestinians and challenge the way their struggle is framed internationally. This grassroots reporting is particularly powerful for younger generations, such as Gen Z, by reshaping public opinion and encouraging calls for accountability.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to explore the inspiring ways Gen Z is standing in solidarity with Palestine. Through cultural solidarity, social media activism, grassroots initiatives, and independent media production, our generation is proving that we have the power to make a difference. By amplifying Palestinian voices, challenging mainstream narratives, and taking tangible actions, we're showing that advocacy and resistance can take many forms. As we've seen today, whether it's through art, fashion, music, or grassroots efforts like protests and boycotts, Gen Z is using its unique strength not only to raise awareness, but also to actively support the Palestinian cause. These efforts remind us of the importance of persistence, creativity, and unity in standing against oppression. Together, we can keep the conversation alive, inspire change, and continue the fight for justice. Thank you for watching, and let's all continue to raise our voices for Palestine.